Hi everyone, welcome to Shrimpmania. Today I'm going to set up another tank for Caridina shrimp, and this time I'm going to use a new soil which is SL Aqua soil from Taiwan. And I heard a lot of good things about this soil, so we're going to check what's the pH of the soil. I'm very interested about this because I heard it's quite low. And also I'm going to try to recreate a bacterial powder because lots of you guys asking me what bacterial powder you use, what way to get bacterial powder. So today I'm going to try to make bacterial powder myself. Hopefully I'm going to get a good result with it, so let me show you how I do it. Here you go, this is my new tank, and as always I'm going to use undergravel filter box for setting up my tank for Caridina shrimp. This is new soil which is SL Aqua from Taiwan, so I'm excited to try this. And here my ingredients for DIY bacterial powder. I'm going to use Bacter AE as a source of bacteria, and the second product is bake yeast. And I know that a lot of bacterial powder contain bake yeast, and yeast are very great for bacteria because they multiply like crazy and they create a steady source of food for bacteria. And the third product is soybeans, and it's a planted protein, is very good source for bacteria food as well. So we have our bacteria, we have a food for bacteria. Let's grind the soybeans inside the coffee grinder, mix everything together and prepare our oven bacterial powder to start our new shrimp tank. So we have our soybean powder ready, and now we need to think about the ratio. So I'm thinking to use the most of the soybean powder, then a little bit of yeasts and a little bit of bacteria. I'm going to use the spoon which came with Bacter AE as a measurement spoon, and I'm going to put 6 spoons flat in this flask. Then I'm going to put 2 spoons of Bacter AE, and I'm going to put 1.5 spoon of yeast. Okay, I mixed everything together in this little jar, and I double up the amount of the powder, just make a little bit more. So now let's set up this tank. Okay, I filled this underground filter box with SL Aqua soil, and I put a little bit of soil at the bottom of the tank because mainly I want to keep the bottom of the tank with a very thin amount of soil to avoid the build-up waste. And take a look at the soil. I like the color, it's very dark and almost black, and the size of the grain is perfect, it's medium-sized grain, and I'm expecting quite a good result with this soil. So I'm gonna simply sprinkle my DIY bacterial powder on top of the UGF box and on top of the soil at the bottom of the tank, and I'm gonna use 4 spoons for the top of the UGF and 3 spoons for the soil at the bottom. Okay, we added our bacterial powder on top of the soil, and now let's fill this tank with water and start cycling it. I'm normally using the water from my existing tanks, and this is because the water in my tanks are quite good and it doesn't have much of the nitrate, and it's also my help to seed our new tank with this dust algae which is growing on the surface, and introduce some of the little creatures like copepods. So it's lots of beneficial things if we're using existing water. And guys, take a look at this tank. I'm cycling this tank for about 1.5 weeks, and I have lots of algae and biofilm already growing here, and I'm using commercial bacterial food here. So I'm hoping that in our tank with our DIY bacterial powder we're gonna have the same effect, same algae growing on the surface. Let me just clean the glass and I show you, so you can see how much dust algae we have on top of the glass. So yeah, it's a lot, yeah. So that's mostly came from that bacterial powder. Of course it's soil as well, give us some nutrients for that, and bacterial powder also give us like bacteria and biofilm, and algae start to grow and thrive. So you can see I put some on the surface, that bacterial powder, and we have some biofilm growing on this. So I want to achieve the same result with our DIY powder. Let's hope it's gonna work the same, and we're gonna find out in a couple of weeks. Okay, our filter is running now. So now we just wait for 1 week or week and a half and see if our bacterial powder gonna work. And I hope it's gonna work. And we will find out in 1 week. So I'll see you then. Okay, a quick update on this tank. It's been 4 days from the start of the cycle. And you can see we have some biofilm start to grow. It looks similar to what I have from bacterial powder, but the only difference is like it has a little purple color. So it's definitely some kind of bacteria. I hope it's beneficial bacteria. So we're gonna see if it's gonna help us to grow this dust algae on the side of the glass, and we're gonna check on this in a few days and see how this tank doing. Yeah, I'm back and it's been 11 days since I started cycling this tank and I have an awesome result. And take a look at this insane biofilm growth and the algae on the glass. Let me quickly clean the front glass for you. And guys, take a look, I have some little copy posts already here. Let me just zoom and show you. Take a look at this one, yeah? So I have plenty of these little copy posts roaming around. After only 11 days, guys, it's been only 11 days. And I have an insane result. They all here, and I have so much dust algae on the side of the glass and at the bottom of the glass. So you can see I cleaned that front glass and you can see the dust algae here. Very good result. And take a look at this UGF filter where I put some bacterial powder as well on the top, and it's insane growth as well. I'm definitely going to experiment with some other products. I want to exclude Bacteria AE because it's quite expensive ingredient, so I want to replace it with something else. So now in a couple of days I'm going to change 50% of water and adding a little bit extra bacterial powder, so we'll see you then. Okay, I'm back, and this tank is 2 weeks old today. And take a look at this lovely biofilm growing at the bottom. It's getting a little bit brown color now. I'm super pleased with the result. I haven't expected that. And take a look at this, we have some brown spots on the glass. So this tank developing very healthy algae and biofilm, and for 2 weeks time it's very good result. So let's change the water. Here you go, we just changed 50% of water, and now it's time to add our DIY bacterial powder. I'm gonna use around 2 spoons of bacterial powder and just sprinkle it on the top of the tank. It's roughly about 1 gram. And guys, this is next day after I changed the water and added bacterial powder, and take a look at this beautiful biofilm already growing on this bacterial powder. That was quite a big chunk which I dropped to the bottom of the tank. Today it's exactly 1 month since I set this tank up, and I think it's time to do a little update. And take a look at this tank. It has insane growth of biofilm and algae, and we have lots of copy pots on the front glass because it's covered with algae and biofilm. And now let's clean the front glass to see properly what's going on inside of this tank. Here you go, this is much better now. And take a look at this biofilm. It's became a brownish mass which support life in this tank. All these copy pots like to roaming around there and eating this nice algae and biofilm. You can see there's a lot of copy pots around, and this is spreading on the glass, and you can see a lot of brown spots. I think this is biofilm, and the green stuff it's algae. Maybe I'm wrong, just my guess. And you can see on the filter as well the same thing. So now I'm going to do another 50% of water change and add my DIY bacterial powder just to support of this lovely algae growth. And hopefully next time it's going to be even more algae in this tank. So let's do the water change and adding some powder. Okay, I'm back again, and it's week 6 since we set this tank up. And take a look inside. I just cleaned the front glass of this tank. We still have lots of algae and biofilm inside growing on the surface. Very happy with SL Aqua soil and happy with this DIY bacterial powder we made. And I just checked ammonia level and it's 0, which means we completed our cycle. So it's time to adding some shrimps here. I'm just checked the water pH in this tank, and pH of the water is 6.0. which is okay, not ideal, but it's okay. I mean, it is what it is. It would be better if it would be below 6. But this soil is very rich of minerals and very potent. You can see it gives a lot of algae and biofilm, so I guess it will be good for plants. And anyway, I'm gonna put some simple Caridina shrimps in this tank, so for them this soil will be perfect. Yeah. Now I'm gonna show you another my shrimp tank, and we're going to take all the shrimps from this tank and move them to a new tank which just been cycled. Here I have lots of mixed Caridina shrimp, which came from mix of pinta shrimp with the simple Caridina shrimp, so they mostly all of them are hybrids or michelings. So I want to break this tank down because I'm not happy about this tank. I have lots of beard algae which is overgrowing this tank. I'm also not happy with the size of the tank. It's quite tall, not much surface area. So this tank gonna go, and I'm gonna replace it with a brand new tank later on. I want to move the moss from this tank to our new tank, but I'm a bit worrying that this moss has some beard algae, as you can see here. Yeah, so I don't want this algae in the new tank, but I try to cut this moss as much as possible and try to clean this. But let's hope this algae won't spread in the new tank. At least they're not gonna spread as crazy as here, I hope, because normally it starts to grow once your soil is losing your buffering capacity and your plants run out of minerals, so this algae starts overgrowing the plants. With the new soil, I hope it's not going to happen, because the plant's going to have lots of minerals and they're going to grow nicely and overgrow the algae. So I also have some blue balls and red balls or red steels here, as you can see this shrimp. Yeah, I'm going to put them in our blue ball tank. So I'm going to prepare 2 containers. One container going to be for blue balled and red balled shrimps, and they're going to go to our blue balled shrimp tank, and another container for simple Caridina shrimp. And I'm also going to move some neo Caridina shrimp to a new tank. Why not? Guys, I'm going to give you a quick tip. After you complete your cycle, always change as much as possible water in your tank. I normally do 90% water change. The reason for that is because this water will contain a lot of nitrate and it's not going to be good for shrimps. Here you go, guys. Take a look at the shrimps. I took all of them from that tank, and here I have a lot of them, probably about 80 or 100 shrimps, all simple Caridina shrimp, plus I have some neo Caridina, plus also I have some few, maybe just pinta males, and I have a assassin snail there. You can see shrimps try to ride it. They were enjoying it. So yeah, they all going in this new tank we just cycled. Yeah, and I also have some blue and red bolts and steels in that tank, so you can see maybe 30 of them, 20, 30, and they're all going to this tank at the bottom where I have a blue balls and blue steels, so they're all going in this tank. So now let's drip acclimate our shrimps and put them in our new tank. 3 days have passed and I'm back with an update, guys, and take a look inside this tank. Take a look at the shrimps. They're looking happy. They are grazing on this algae and biofilm. Oh, that's the buried shrimps here. You can see the buried shrimp. They did a good job of cleaning this algae and biofilm from the surface of the tank. And as you remember, last time when I put the shrimps, there was a lot of this brown stuff, like a biofilm left from the bacterial powder, and then cleaned pretty much everything. They also pooped a lot, and even you can see here is a big pile of the shrimp poop. And some of you guys asking me, what I do with the shrimp poop, if I vacuum it or not, the answer is no, I don't vacuum, I just leave it in the tank, because in your tank you have lots of little creatures like your copepods, like your bacteria, your microorganisms, and they're feeding on the poop, on the shrimp poop, and they poop themselves, and this is also good food source for your shrimp, they poop. So this is a healthy cycle of poop in your tank, and yeah, that works great. You don't need to do anything, your shrimp's gonna do everything. So they're gonna clean your tank, and you don't need to clean it yourself. So I'm sure they're not hungry now because there's plenty of natural food inside the tank. But anyway, I'm gonna try to give them a first feeding. I'm gonna give them a little bit of food and see how they're gonna react.